সবাই জাস্ট 10 সেকেন্ড পরে কথা বলা শুরু করলে হবে।
ওকে। Assalamu alaikum and good evening. Dear physicians, today we have 55th lecture in our ECG study group program, and today we have among us the dynamic Dr. Chaudhry Hafiz Ahsan sir. And before sir going to deliver the speech, I'd like to request our dearest Professor Atharli sir to say a few words regarding Chaudhry Hafiz Ahsan sir. Athar sir, I request you to say some words.
Yeah, you need something?
Athar sir.
Good evening, dear moderator, then course director Professor Abdul Wadud Chaudhry, dear panelists. I am very much honored to introduce Dr. Chaudhry Ahsan. Actually, this forum by this time, I think does not need any introduction about Chaudhry Hafizul Ahsan. He is a man with extraordinary brilliant background and is such a type of wonderful presenter that we are amazed every day. We are enjoying his presentation. Whenever there is a presentation, actually we are waiting for his presentation, newer and newer. Actually, we learn every day from his presentation. Dr. Chaudhry Ahsan and Dr. Rafiq Ahmed, both are live of this program. Actually, this program is wonderful because of these two participants. So this is Dr. Chaudhry Ahsan, a man with extraordinary brilliant character. He has been introduced by Chaudhry Abdul Wadud Chaudhry several times about his extraordinary brilliant character. So this is Chaudhry Ahsan. I am like to request Dr. Chaudhry Ahsan to present his share his screen. Dr. Chaudhry Ahsan.
Otherwise, thank you for the kind introduction. So maybe we are a smaller group today. Maybe we can just do a didactic. So this patient, 39-year-old with chest pain, we have shown this kind of problem before. So I was talking to Rafiq Bhai, but he is not here today. So today's session, we wanted to make it like repetition of the ones that we did before. But unfortunately, the participants are a little less, but we wanted to make it like didactic, you know. So this one, anybody, we can open up the forum, and if anybody wants to jump in, it will be like a quick fire. And then I have some interesting EKGs later on. This is from this week's presentations in our department. 39-year-old with chest pain. My question is not how you diagnose. My question is what medication you will give this patient for management with this EKG. Say that we send this patient home from the emergency room. We had a couple of EKGs, and patient had chest pain, troponin came negative, chest X-ray normal. So we send this patient home. Anyone to jump in?
Whenever you get a patient like this, the question I'll be asking, why he is getting this chest pain? Here, the background is chest pain not radiating sharp precordial words with inspiration, but associated with chest bruising from motor vehicle accident 1 week ago. So that leads to the question, is it due to pericarditis?
So be careful about the motor vehicle part, because sometimes that can give you a pericardial effusion or evolving effusion. So this is pericarditis. Question is, this pericarditis should be treated as same with the colchicine and non-steroidals. Because of the colchicine, it prevents recurrent pericarditis, and we avoid steroids because of the higher number of recurrence. And then in post-MI pericarditis, we use high-dose aspirin. This patient, post-CABG, then came in with palpitation. The question was, what is the rhythm? And then, is this patient having another MI, looking at the EKG V4, V5, V6,
CABG.
post CABG, I think few weeks after.
CABG when? A few weeks?
Few
before?
weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah. Two things are important. Atar Bhai, will you pass a comment? Whenever we have tachycardia, what is the significance of ST segment at that time? And what is the importance of ST depression and or ST elevation if it is associated with tachycardia?
Actually, it is moderately wide QRS tachycardia, regular LVB morphology, then 1, 2, 3, right axis deviation, and along with the no POV is visible, and the ST, what is actually you have marked is the ST segment elevation in V4, V5, these two leads are so. So it is possible to comment about the ST segment elevation as well in case in presence of the, but this is the borderline LVB morphology type. So it is difficult to comment about the characteristics of the CCG. So I think this
Sir,
is the moderately
sir, if
wide
we,
narrow QRS regular tachycardia. So we should draw the differential diagnosis, and definitely VT should be the first possibilities in this case.
sir, if we look at AVR, if we closely look at the AVR, there is some atrial activity, which is dissociated atrial activity. In AVR, the second complex, before the QRS, second QRS, there is a negative wave, and again in the before the last QRS, there is again a P-like activity.
So yes,
AVR, in AVR, sir.
true, Tushar. This may be that is the one of the sign of the AV dissociation. Actually, the post CABG, that is the post CABG, moderately wide QRS complexes, and this does not fulfill neither the typical LV morphology nor the RV morphology. So this is the one of the characteristics of the. So this is the reason actually I'm trying the first possibility is the ventricular tachycardia.
Yes, sir. And this might be arise from septum also because of the narrowness of the QRS. This might be from septum.
Chaudhary, Abdul Wahid Chaudhary.
The rate is around 150. Could it be something else?
Previous.
The previous, Hafiz Bhai, previous.
So after the conversion, it looked like this.
Yeah.
Oh, after the conversion look like this. That is the.
So now, how will you sum up?
Conversion by what? With yes.
Converted by adenosine.
So this time, report previous treatment with adenosine. The patient said that he had adenosine before, even before CABG.
And that's what I was saying, because can you go back to the previous ECG? হাফিজ ভাই আগে ECG দেওয়া যাবে? হ্যাঁ।
পাওয়া যাচ্ছে, দেখতে পাচ্ছ?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rate is around 300.
Right.
Rate is high, sir, quite high.
But sorry, atrial,
No,
the super,
around
the rate is of 150, more than 150.
More than 150, around 180.
180.
Yeah. So, 140, I'm not an EP guy, but 140 to 160 ventricular rate, that you are still in the A flat or 2 to 1 range.
Yeah.
But when it goes to like 180, I get worried, So I was actually lucky because by the time I went to the emergency room, patient diverted to sinus, and I had this old EKG in my hand. So the question is, what should I say? That this patient went into AV nodal reentry tract, or patient was in VT?
So again, this ECG, Chaudhary Hassan. Actually,
Yeah.
there are some common, that is rule of thumbs. That is there any evidence of MI in a patient with tachycardia like this ECG with moderately wide QRS complex, and
Right.
there is evidence of MI in V4, V5, V6. So in this, but with this background, without knowing the history, we should consider this patient as the VT first. Maybe yes, definitely the SVT should be definitely the possibility, but because of the presence of the evidence of the MI in ECG, we should consider the VT first in this ECG like this.
But the question is, do you think there is a coexistent ischemia MI going on in the V4, V5, V6?
That's what I was asking. When the tachycardia is there, what is the significance of ST elevation at that time? In a sinus rhythm, this ST elevation is definitely MI. But when there is tachycardia, there may be ST elevation.
So my experience is that when there is a pre-existing wall motion and then gets tachycardia, that pre-existing wall motion can give you some bizarre appearances, you know.
Yeah.
And that this probably happened because this patient has apical dyskinesia from before, and that became more pronounced with this. The troponin subsequently was negative, and we did not need to do any MI workup. And we thought that this is something probably SVT with likely AV nodal re-entry tach is possible because he had history before.
Athar Bhai, my question is, look at V2. The initial R wave is very narrow.
Right,
Right.
Does that go against VT?
sure.
Yeah, it is less than actually 100 milliseconds. It was about 80, 90. So we actually were okay with this one. So this patient, this patient came in with this EKG, and this is actually, any idea, any comment from the participant?
Shofik?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is actually one of our patients that participated in the Barostim trial. It's like a parasympathetic stimulator, and this is now approved for heart failure. And this is the device that we were in the study, and the device was implanted in the carotid stimulator. And that's why the parasympathetic stimulation, and you titrate, but it gives the baseline noises like LVAD. So I just want to throw this because in case you see sometimes patient with a ventricular assist device, they can give you the noise like this, like HeartMate 3, they can give you this kind of a noise. But this is the interesting patient I wanted to discuss with you. 54-year-old came in with chest pain and then dropped blood pressure and heart rate and became confused. And this is the EKG. Anything?
So, yeah, there was an echo on a patient that we had Schrader. The views weren't that easy to get, so there's limited images, but ICU was.
Shafik, interventionist.
Seems to be acute myocardial infarction. And this is the rhythm of atrial fibrillation with complete heart block could be. If I can see the ECG again.
Yeah.
আপনার পুরো ইয়েটা দেখতে পাচ্ছি, ইসিজিটা দেখতে আলাদা করে দেখছি না।
দেখছো এখন, পাচ্ছ
দেখতে
দেখতে?
Right, it is okay. Now,
it's amazing. There is a few second delay when I upload and you see.
Shofik?
yes, sir.
Atrial fibrillation.
atrial fibrillation with complete heart block could be the
No.
rhythm. Rhythm
One,
is
two,
atrial fibrillation with
three,
complete heart block,
5, 6,
Is it
and
totally regular?
1,
regular.
2,
Seems
4.
to be
RR interval is regular.
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 Yes, sir.
So it
That's a
is
very
atrial fibrillation
important.
with complete heart block, and at the same time, patient having inferior myocardial infarction with posterior extension could be, but no, it is one in the late V2, but V3 no ST depression. So it is very lateral. There is also could be LCX territory, and LCX could be the dominant
ST,
vessel.
ST in V3, lead 3 is more than ST elevation in lead 2.
Right.
So it's right-sided.
But at the same time, ST elevation is there in V4, 5,
V4,
V6.
5, 6 suggested that the posterolateral branch could be very big.
Right. That could right side. Right. The right side.
And that's why you are getting also the posterior V2, tall R and ST depression and so on.
Right. So what happens that this patient then goes into this.
Ah, yeah.
Fibrillation directly. Then then
So my question is that then we, of course, we shock the patient, put a temporary wire, and then we got the flow back. So in case of there is plenty of data, that showing that magnitude of the ST elevation increases the risk for VF arrest. So we need to move very fast in this kind of patients, and it can be automatic or triggered, and a lot of mechanisms can be involved. Basically, all three mechanisms of tachycardia can be present in a ischemic substrate. This was clearly injury pattern of MI, and the patient had revascularized RCA. What do you do now for this patient? And I gave the choices. I don't know, we have 31 participants. I don't know, anyone want to comment? The left side has no significant disease. The right side, we fixed it. He then was in sinus, extubated the same night or the early morning, next morning, and then was sent home later. So the question is, what will be the appropriate next step? Rather, in addition to giving dual antiplatelet, statin, and other medications.
if ejection fraction is okay, if it should be not less than 30 in this patient, and if still there is chances of if ischemia is totally can be treated, then near future patient will not develop these sorts of arrhythmia again, probably. But I think medical management could be suffice.
Shafiq, the thing is the patient has primary VF within the context of acute MI. So
Right. That's
these
MI
do not
related.
actually.
That is MI related. Once ischemia will be over, then
And
hopefully,
even if you want to put a ICD, you have to wait for 40 days at least.
right.
Right, Chaudhary. Actually,
Yeah.
according to guidelines, actually we have to wait for at least 40 days. This 40
Right.
days is the after the 40 days, the echo should be repeated. At that time, if the ejection fraction less than 30, then we can think about the device therapy. Otherwise, there is no criteria at this time.
Yeah.
But during this gray time, if the patient has got repeated VF, there is some special consideration. Otherwise, primary VF, complete revascularization, we have to wait for the 40 days.
Yeah, and I think everybody needs to be very clear on that. Otherwise, thank you, because in the primary VF, the ICD is not indicated. And if the patient develops in hospital after revascularization, there is the issue of VT, sustained VT or VF, then patient goes back to the cath lab. There are a few things in cardiology that I readily compromise and then say, you can do this way, you can do that way. But these are non-negotiable. I call it non-negotiable. If the patients after the initial revascularization gets another sustained V shock or VF, that patient goes back to the cath lab and the RCA is open and there is no ischemic substrate that we can readily see in the left side, then that patient becomes a candidate for ICD, because this is now a different issue. This is no longer primary VF. But for primary VF, no need, regardless of the EF,
Yeah.
there is no need for ICD. Now, if the patient has coexistent other disease or maybe a mixed cardiomyopathy, alcohol, and the late presenter, EF is less than 35, we can do all the good medical therapy and reassess. And in the 40 days from the Dynamite trial, and then for the CMS in the US, they usually want us to try for 90 days. And during this time, some advocate that this is a high risk ischemic substrate, then use wearable defibrillator like the live vest. You can do that. But ICD is not recommended for the primary VF, and then waiting for 90 days needed because the Medicare is not going to reimburse if it is placed within 90 days. You have to have a good reason. If it is a secondary situation like after revascularization, stent still patent, there is no other substrate, then you'll have to think that this could be a scar related, and then it buys a box. So I thought this is an interesting case that way. And then conduction system for the bradycardia with the RCA revascularization immediately came back to sinus, no other issues. So this was his EKG following day. His LV function actually was preserved. He came in very early hours and went home, no problem, within 24 to 36 hours after that. So it is amazing to me that we are now discharging this kind of patients so early. This is another interesting patient, 89-year-old with brain bleed. And they were asking us that this is very ischemic and very aggressive family. Mother was very active, and now they are saying we should do everything. And if it is a heart attack, do cath, fix it.
What's your estimated VF?
That's a real problem. You have a brain bleed, and again, if you want to do it,
They do that in the lung.
oh, wow,
What is the name?
you are cornered.
Very difficult situation.
Yeah.
I got a similar patients today. ST elevation were much higher than AV right here, and ST depression all over the list much higher. And that was a tachycardic patients. And patient was aortic stenosis. Once returned to normal sinus rhythm, then everything was normal. But here, if there is tachycardia, could be tachycardia related problem, not because of left main MI. This is atrial fibrillation with widespread ST depression with AVR ST elevation. And also, so once it is returned to sinus, then I think everything would be okay. As there is brain bleed, so no chances of giving any sorts of anticoagulation in this patient.
So actually,
So how did you manage?
actually, Shobhik, actually, what is the ECG diagnosis first?
ECG diagnosis is atrial fibrillation with that is the basic rhythm is atrial fibrillation, and there is ST elevation in AVR and also in AVL, and widespread all over there is ST depression. In V1 there is no ST elevation in V1 as well.
So how can you exclude the possibilities of latent disease, AVR positive, gross STT depression, global STT depression?
Global STT depression. It could be because of left main disease or severe triple basal disease, or even LAD very proximal disease. And as it is, there is a tachycardia. There might have some ST depression and ST elevation in AVR. Patient could be anemic. That could give rise these sorts of ECG as well.
Wadud Chaudhary, before Chaudhary Hafiz, this is same ECG.
Same patient?
Yeah, same is.
Wadud bhai, ECG is very consistent with latent disease.
Yeah. ST depression in at least 8 or more leads with ST elevation in AVR. And if it is more in AVR than ST elevation in V1, that suggests left main disease.
Can this ECG be explained with the brain bleed, subarachnoid hemorrhage?
Actually, Atharvai, I
No.
don't know, someone, Alam, Dr. Alam has said subarachnoid hemorrhage.
Spasm,
And, Dr. Alam.
right,
But the
right.
problem is in subarachnoid hemorrhage, usually we get white-based inversion, not something like this.
So as Professor Wadud Chaudhary is saying that we get giant T wave, like more than 3 boxes, and actually very ugly looking T wave. And I
Yes.
say to the fellows that the uglier it looks, the less likely significant coronary stenosis, less likely. It is not less likely MI. So another important thing is that in intracranial events, there may be, and Jack has published this stroke heart syndrome. Under the stroke heart syndrome, you may of course get plaque rupture, but a significant number of patients actually are not plaque rupture MI. They are like a coronary spasm, endothelial dysfunction, and sometimes stunning with the intracranial event surge, like a sympathetic surge, and they get apical ballooning, like Takasubu, reverse Takasubu, and you can get all kinds of variation of stunning in case of stroke heart syndrome. And one of the important tool can be to get an idea is the echo. And then thus I was looking at clipping, but my fellow forgot to add the echo. This patient had echo and also had a contrast echo, and it was typical apical ballooning. Now, apical ballooning, we cannot be sure, or we cannot call it Takasubu unless we have the morphologic LV changes and also the cath, cardiac cath without any plaque rupture and type 1 MI. We'll have to exclude that. In this case, we told them that cath lab is not a photography lab. The patient has intracranial bleed. In case, if there is a significant CAD, it's not going to help you because we will not be able to give any blood thinner. And therefore, it is a moot point of doing cath. And some people, surgeons say that at least we need to know. And I said, no, you don't need to know, because how about if we're sitting at left main? Even if we are going to do left main, CABG, and many people probably do not realize, the first thing in the bypass surgery they do, open the chest and they flood with heparin. So CABG also needs anticoagulation. It's not like we need anticoagulation. So CABG also needs anticoagulation. So in the presence of intracranial bleed, that is not an option either. So there is no option for revascularization for these patients. And if it is apical ballooning, it is reasonable to follow the patients and don't do anything. And you will see this confirmation because the troponin usually are mini troponin, small troponin rise. They are usually less than 5, less than 2,000, something like that. And these patients, they came back to sinus, and yes, underlying atrial rhythm is atrial fibrillation. So we did not do anything. And this patient, similarly, another patient's dementia, CVA, AFib, and on Eliquis, presents with lower abdominal pain.
Just one question for the previous patient.
Yeah,
Chaudhary.
yeah.
So actually, what did you do for the rate or rhythm for this patient?
We gave amiodarone, and the rate came down, sinus, and many of these EKG changes disappeared. So another important, when there is an apical, anteroapical dyskinesia with the tachycardia, EKG can be fooling you.
Thank you.
That's a very interesting case.
Yeah. An 80-year-old with seizure disorder, CKD, dementia, and AFib on Eliquis. So the question is, sometimes we are not neurologists. When there is dementia and multiple CVA, it is most likely multi-infarct dementia rather than saying Alzheimer's. But here, sometimes they leave it like this. So V1, lots of P wave. I actually included this EKG for Rafiq Bhai, but he is not here. I wanted to play with him about this P wave. Interestingly, the primary team that they called us, they said they are worried about the ST segment depression. They did not call us for the rhythm. They called us for the ST segment depression and saying this patient had CVA in the past, maybe MI now. Will you do cath? The ST segment B4, B5, B6, and then also lead 1 and 2, 3 AVFs. They're saying this may be a problem, like
The first of all, ECG diagnosis, Chaudhary, actually, is it atrial flutter?
No.
well, I don't know. I actually wanted to know that what you think, because the P's are very organized in V1. To me, it looks like atrial tach, but Rafiq Bhai will say, oh, well, that depends on the rate. But the rate is actually 300. So it looks like atrial flutter. And the patient has atrial fib before. So maybe it is atrial flutter, right? Atar Bhai?
Yes, I am agree with it. Actually, either atrial flutter or atrial tachycardia. These two are the possibilities, but I am more in favor of the atrial flutter, as because we can see clearly the two P waves in between the QRS complexes in lead V1, and in case of the lead 2, there is one P before the QRS complex and another over the ST segment, just at the midpoint of the ST segment. So the presence of the P wave at the mid part of the ST segment is very much characteristic of the atrial flutter. So considering these 2 points, atrial flutter should be the first possibilities. Abdul Wadud,
Yeah.
And sir,
Right, sir.
so also the P in the lead 2 is inverted, negative,
Yes,
sir.
yes,
Lead
yes.
2, 3, AVF. The P are inverted. That is not the sinus P.
Yeah. So the question is, will you, and then we said, no, in this situation, we'll not do the cath. And then my main issue is that when there is a patient with dementia, then it is important because we do cath for improved survival, improve symptoms, and improve quality of life. If the dementia is bad, dementia, then sometimes I tell the hospitalists that, chill out, don't go after that. Then conservative management is better. And we just treat it medically. So this one was interesting. 67-year-old, recent diagnosis of melanoma and leg pain. The patient doesn't have any symptom like palpitation, dizziness. The EKG was done, and then this was the EKG. What do you think the diagnosis?
Size of the QRS.
Yeah.
Madhu Chaudhary.
Size of the QRS suggests some LV dysfunction. Then what will be the likely supraventricular rhythm? That's the question I'll be asking the juniors.
So, history of
This is the alternates. There's electrical alternates. Hafiz bhai ageta jan.
Eta.
no, previous one.
This one, AJ, yeah.
This one, that is low voltage electrical alternates, tachycardia, and history of the melanoma, that is the maybe metastatic pericardial effusion. So pericardial effusion is the first possibility, I think, Chaudhary.
Yeah, but echo was okay. But rhythm?
$150, just more than $150. Fairly regular.
So electrical alternance is less common in atrial flutter, but more common in AVNRT, right?
Right,
Exactly.
right.
That's my point.
And then,
Sir, AVRT is more common, sir. Like, associated with accessory pathway, it is more common. Electrical alternance. AVNRT does usually, sir, do not produce electrical alternance that much, if I'm not wrong. Atar, sir?
yeah. Is it more common in AVRT, AVNRT? I don't know but it is possible to see electrical alternance with SVT, AV in that
Right.
narrow complex group. And this was
Yes,
the
sir.
EKG after. So, and we did not do much. I don't know, sometimes we see this like atrial fibrillation with hypovolemia, dehydration, and it is in the emergency literature that you give them fluid. Sometimes with the stress factor gone, if it comes back to sinus before you do anything. Have you seen that? And alcohol, you just give morphine you give little metoprolol for controlling blood pressure, but the acutely with the control of the taking the sympathetic surge, the AFib comes back to sinus. So this patient with the 61-year-old stage 4 lung cancer and bipolar disorder and anxiety and ground level fall.
One, two, three.
Bipolar disorder. What medication he was getting? Because that's important here.
Yeah. So QT looks like a little
Program.
bit, yeah.
QT program.
And this was a tough one for us
True.
because of the T inversions. What do you think?
Sir, did he get chemo before that? Was he getting chemo?
Actually, a very relevant question. he got I was looking at the chat box. Atalbhai, also look at the chat box, please. He got chemo a few months ago, so not recent chemo. And to answer all Wadud's question, he was on some antipsychotic med, and
Yeah.
but he could not tell. But the question is that he had this T inversions, and I was not very happy about this T, although my fellow was saying this could be intracranial event. So CT head was negative. For bleed, there is neurology is intact. So one thing is that we do as an interventionalist, if we cannot figure out, we say cath. If we cannot figure out what to do with the vessel, we said stent it, whether we know or we don't know. So will you cath?
Actually, only
Stage 4
cath
lung cancer.
Huh?
Stage 4 lung cancer.
Sorry, Wadud?
The patient have very advanced lung cancer.
Yes.
That's the point I should be thinking about what to
Yeah.
do about him.
Yeah, and we will never know because of the patient did not agree for the cath, but the lung cancer was the tip off. Was absolutely right, and we did not do anything. But it does make the troponin came back not small. Troponin. That's why I'm showing this. Troponin came back about like 20 plus thousand. So maybe there is some LAD issues. I don't know. And the patient then agreed for like going on to do not resuscitate. So we did not do anything. This is very important. You know, we as a group, sometimes we were desperate to prove what we think, but sometimes it is important to look at the patient's context and not to do anything because it's not going to help the patient. And the chemo question was very important because very important. I cannot tell you how important that question. The chemo was few months ago, but platelets is still like low, you know, like 56,000 or something. And when we give stent, we'll be giving blood, you know, it's dual antiplatelet. So it becomes an issue. So we need to think ahead. And I really love that question.
Sir, before going on to the next case, so could it be the combination of the cardiotoxic effect of chemo and the QT prolongation due to antipsychotic drugs?
Yes.
The combination of these two.
And cardio-oncology field is evolving. Particularly, we know the traditional chemo like adriamycin and then dose and all that, Cytoxan. But there is a new group of chemo, particularly in the melanoma group. There is this antibodies, you know, the what they call it, the immune modulators, you know, or gatekeepers. Those can give what they call this myocarditis type, and they are similar like the COVID-19 myocarditis. Like they can give you, I mean, COVID-19 vaccine myocarditis that is rare, like a VIT, but they can give you this kind of the flu-like symptoms and LV function, usually global, and then rapidly deteriorates. We had one patient that we actually lost because it was behaving like a fulminant myocarditis. And the advanced heart failure centers, they usually say that you give hemodynamic support, and then in some cases, they just go with the immunosuppressive therapy. And nobody knows about the immune-mediated antibody-related cardiotoxicity, how to handle. But COVID-19, some people, as you know, has given anti-immune therapy like anti-interleukin 6 inhibitors, tocilizumab and steroid combination. But yes, absolutely. And the echo may be helpful, usually global. But in this case, the patient actually had more of a regional LAD pattern. And I thought that this may be LAD, but we could not do the cath. 42-year-old, shortness of breath, COVID positive, septic shock, and mechanical ventilation and all this. And then look at the COVID pattern. The reason I'm showing this EKG, we actually picked up from the EKG read. Now that we are so familiar, in the past, they were calling us for this kind of patients. Now the ICU has become so familiar, they don't call us for these patients anymore. Patient was treated with remdesivir and then the JAK kinase inhibitors for COVID infection. Patient ultimately died. But look, this EKG evolved. So did he have myocarditis? Yes, he had myocarditis, but we could not help. Nothing works actually. So this patient is interesting. I don't know. I still don't know what is the diagnosis, but we have few differential. Hypertension, hyperlipidemia, diabetes, and this EKG. Right bundle, left axis, white QRS, otherwise.
Really, V1.
Very irregularly irregular.
V1, V2, V3.
Any suggestion from the audience? Irregularly irregular, bundle branch, and there is some P wave that in the lead 2, you can see some here and there P waves. I hope I'm not imagining.
No, true. And P. Any comments from participant? Tushar? V1, V2, V3, V4.
One participant commented on pre-excited AF. Mr. Dr. Abdullah Mamun. He said this is pre-excited F.
Pre-excited? No.
He said, sir. He said like that. It's his opinion.
Okay. Now I think it is unlikely, but I think it could be atrial tag variable block or atrial flutter variable block. The TSH is 0.2. But I probably will be able to give you the answer tomorrow because normally I don't cardiovert with the TSH low, but this is not that bad. So we'll cardiovert and then see. And I'll talk to our EP guys.
Actually, but one possibility is, Chaudhuri, there is some form of group beating, I think, starting from the rhythm strip, bottom, second beat, you see, PR.
But we did the timing, otherwise it is very irregularly irregular.
Right,
there is no pattern.
No, this is the reason actually I'm considering there is some possibilities of some kinds of Owen-Quebec is going on. That is the second degree heart block, as because some changes in the PR interval in the bottom rhythm strip you see, there is a PR, then some no P, then again PR, no P. So some kinds of the grouping is going on. So presence of irregular QRS complexes in presence of some kinds of group beating, Owen-Quebec is a possibility, I think. This is definitely one of the.
So you are saying there may be high atrial rate and then intermittent Owen-Quebec happening.
Right, yes. This is one of the possibilities, I think.
Okay.
So we'll wait for your next answer. Next, I think you can.
I'll have to bring back this one after this study.
Right.
So this one, 77-year-old mitral valve replacement, and then PAD, right-sided groin mass, mitral valve replacement 2 weeks ago. So now look at the rhythm question. Lead 2, what is the rhythm?
Is some form of second degree AV block.
Looks like Wenke back to me, right?
Right. This is typical one Quebec, right? Exactly.
Look at the
So-
middle group, yeah.
Yeah, so the
Clearly this is prolonged.
mitral valve is in close proximity with the mitral valve replacement. You can see the arrhythmias, but this is not enough yet for the pacemaker. So we are observing. So this is an interesting EKG. 30-year-old with syncope. The patient has drug abuse, but the PVC is very obvious in 2-3 AVF. Where is the PVC coming from?
So V1 is LVB morphology, that is from the right side of the heart, and lead 2, 3 AVF. So dear participants, just for classification between the left versus right, it is the V1. We have to see the V1. V1
Yeah.
is LVB morphology, so from the right side of the heart, and then we have to see the 2, 3 AVF. 2, 3 AVF is positive, so coming from above downwards. So right ventricular outflow tract, Chaudhary.
Yeah, I think it is probably right ventricle. They also mention about the transition of the QRS in V3. If it is rapid transition, then is it RVOT or LVOT? Sometimes they ask, but I think it is more likely RVOT. So this patient is a dialysis patient, tachycardia and happened in the dialysis. What is the diagnosis? And particularly, I request you to see B4.
Just after the QRS complex.
Just after the QRS complex.
Also look at the V1. A RBB do not present like this sharp two waves.
Yeah. This is 82. That was bothering me, but it is what it is. So so we did give adenosine. It was AV nodal re-entry tach. And I said, how this happened in an 82-year-old, but she responded. But same day, later, another patient, 72-year-old on dialysis, came into the emergency room, and we saw this EKG later. And we went back, and the patient was no longer there. So can you imagine what happened to the patient?
Patient was in respiratory distress. There's so much chest movement.
Okay.
But the QRS complex is narrow, relatively. So that doesn't suggest that the patient have extreme hyperkalemia or something like that. But the rhythm, look at lead 3. There seems to be the third complex seems to have a P wave in front.
One sinus beat, well, Chaudhary, actually,
Yeah, one sinus
intermit-
beat.
intermittently sinus beat. Actually, lead 3 has one sinus beat, AVF also, then V3 also, V6 also there is intermittent sinus beat. And
So as Professor Wadud Chaudhary said, you need to be vigilant on everything. So patient respiratory distress, intubated, profound acidosis, hyperkalemia, and the patient died.
Sir, was the patient had pericardial effusion also?
Yes. So there was a, you know, they call it a fast ultrasound, and there was some suggestion for pericardial effusion. So if you are vigilant, you get it all, you know. But talking about that, so this was the following day, we had this patient, 69-year-old, and then this EKG.
is it that ugly looking EKG, Chaudhary?
It is ugly looking. And then look at the V1, Q, and then AVR, the downsloping ST. It's like merges with the ST segment with the T wave, and the patient presented with PEA. So it was hyperkalemia, hyperkalemia, hyperkalemia. So this is very, very important. Now, interestingly, this patient was on digoxin, and the question is that do you give calcium in patients who are on digoxin when you treat hyperkalemia? Because there is a question that irreversible non-contractile state, because digoxin causes sodium potassium ATPase inhibition, and then intracellular sodium goes high. And then there is also in the phase 4, like the intracellular calcium load. And if you give more, then it may go into irreversible non-contractile mode. So they don't recommend the calcium chloride, but that is a myth. It doesn't have any implication. I had one patient that our pharmacy refused to give, and then I had to override this. So I don't think there is, if you hear about this, I would call it like a myth, and still treat with calcium chloride because it's life-saving. And then if it is a dialysis patient, then give bicarb and all the other things, usual way, but don't forget to dialyze the patient. And this patient again is another device patient. This patient had LVAD and came in and had this baseline. It is very typical when you see this baseline, it's a device patient. So I'm going to rush for another 2 cases that Atharva is now encouraging me to give like a board question. So these are the board questions, like sample questions, so you can get a flavor that what the fellows here go through. 60-year-old came into the primary care for evaluation of bradycardia. He is an avid marathon runner who exercises regularly without limitations. The patient's past medical history is notable for hypertension and controlled with lisinopril. Exam: heart rate 46, blood pressure is 112/78, cardiac auscultation, bradycardia, regular rhythm, lungs clear, and he has no external extremity edema. Typically, the board gives you such an account that they also teaches you how you present a case. So this is the EKG of that 60-year-old who is an avid runner and does not have any other significant issues from the past. So question is, what you do next for this patient? A, put a pacemaker. B, do electrophysiologic study. C, do a treadmill EKG test. D, do an immediate echocardiogram. And E, observe.
So you want the poll answer now, Ribu?
Or anybody
Amrul.
can jump in. I don't know. I forgot to add the questions.
It's a very interesting ECG for discussion, I think, for a learning purpose also, for our also, not only for the. So any.
Sir, one of the participants answered like you want to place permanent pacemaker. Mr. Ashikur Rahman.
Okay, Dr. Naeem, Dr. Abu Naeem said 2 to 1 block. Can you describe a little more and what you want to do next? I think I agree with Dr. Naeem that this is 2 to 1. Perfect.
But whether the patient will need the pacemaker or not, this is the question actually.
Yeah.
Or whether we should go for the further test, like the EP study, stress test, echo, follow-up like this. Anyone volunteers? Sadi Mugaddam Hussain
This is
Sadi.
a practical problem because we get patients like this who do not have almost any symptom. Mohsin,
So,
you are
Wadud,
here. Could you please make some comments?
Wadud, let me tell you one thing that I usually, we work with the fellows, we train them clinically, but 2 things important: to train them clinically so that they are well trained, well versed. But my another headache is that they have to pass the board. So when I take classes for board exam, I tell them few things, that if you are putting a device in a patient who is asymptomatic, you better have a damn good reason to put the device. The board is telling you that this is a patient for bradycardia who is not having any symptom. So you must have a very good reason to put a device. So that is one good clue. And then if the obvious reaction is pacemaker, in asymptomatic patients, you need to do something to address that issue. So just observation is not going to work. So what do you do next?
Mohsin Hussain sir. Mohsin Hussain sir, are you there? Mohsin
I'm
Hussain,
present, yeah.
Sir, you just can you give us some ideas on how do we proceed in this?
Just I entered this. This is a 60 years old man, yeah, asymptomatic,
Yes, sir.
Heart rate-
Yes.
Athletic.
146, 2 to 1 block, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No symptom, no syncope, no
symptom.
Now,
exercise
runs-
intolerance,
no. What's
no
that?
exercise, no exercise
He is
intolerance.
athlete.
Well, they did not say that, but we gave you the option that you can do an echo, you can do an exercise treadmill test, you can follow with the halter, you can do EP study, or you do nothing until the patient comes back 3 months later. And if there is any problem, come back early.
He is a marathon
In
runner,
my
sir.
practice, I
Marathon
will do
runner.
the exercise test to see the chronotropic incompetence. If the patient can heart rate is increased, and I will do the only follow up, nothing do.
And that is the answer by the board. You can argue what you do, but you are absolutely right. Board wanted to know that you will do an exercise test and see there is no further conduction block on exertion. This is 2 to 1, and Atharva, you can explain probably better that this is, you can't differentiate whether this is 2 to 1, MOBIS 1 or MOBIS 2, but you usually say this by the company it keeps. There is no other conduction block. This is probably benign and it should be okay. And thank you, that is the right answer.
Yes, excellent, ECG.
Okay, so this one, I don't know, let me see this. I goofed up. This EKG, what happened?
Can we make it bigger?
That's what I'm trying to do. What happened? Okay. Okay, this EKG is in a patient with 8-year-old male with syncope, witness syncope. And one thing is important for the board exam, that you cannot challenge the board. If board says syncope, that means transient loss of consciousness with evidence of loss of postural tone. So board is telling that this is syncope, take it seriously. And this EKG is given to you, and board is asking, EKG sinus rhythm normal, no further testing, long QT, Brugada, ARVC, or check for early diabetes and look for premature coronary artery disease because the patient is presenting with syncope.
Syncope.
Look at V4, V5.
Yeah.
That means I call it the T wave is telling QRS bye-bye. It's so it's a long QT.
Yes.
It's a congenital long QT syndrome. And the clue is that father died suddenly at age 35. So it's a congenital long QT. So that is the answer. And what you do in this situation.
He has a history of syncope. So with a family history of sudden cardiac death. So do you need to do any provocation test? You don't.
No.
You can you can reasonably put an ICD.
Actually, he qualifies for the ICD criteria, Chaudhary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most will agree, but some will still say that patient himself did not have any documented VFib or arrest. So some will say give beta blocker and observe. But I think most will agree that this patient with the family history of sudden cardiac death and long QT and syncope will go for ICD. Yeah. So this is how it works. The board will, like the membership exam, they give you a short case. The examiners examine first. If all of them got splenomegaly, then you are going to be a member. You are supposed to get splenomegaly. If 3 of them got it and 2 did not get it, then they will say, okay, we'll see how the examinee does. But they will give you a little room. But if they all got it and you did not get it, then they will fail. So similarly, in the board exam, the questions, they look at the question setters. If they all agree, they will keep it. Some they will leave it for future to see how examiners did it. So 26-year-old coming to the emergency room after episode of syncope.
Oh.
And she has history of feeling dizzy, nausea, and then the documentation that she lost consciousness. And then her husband ran to her and then found with a rapid pulse. Medical technicians came in, vitals normal, and exam was unremarkable. And echo shows LV function normal, right ventricular enlargement, mild RV enlargement. And this EKG that was captured, question is this VT, ARVC, VT with the Brugada, SVT with pre-excitation, or this is SVT with atypical AVNRT?
So VT with ARVD is a possibility because of your echo findings, Chaudhary. That is mild RV dysfunction, RV enlargement. So these two are the in favor of the VT, that is a VT RVD, but VT
Look at
Brugada
V1.
is VT Brugada is also a possibility, as because in the lead V1 there is incomplete RBB pattern.
Yeah.
But
So-
SBT with pre-excitation is not possible, excluded, as because there is no evidence of pre-excitation in the sinus beat.
Yeah. So I wanted to tell you one thing, that in the cardiology board exam, in the EKG part, there is actually negative marking also. So, but this is in the question part, there is no negative marking in the EKG part. And if the EKG part is, you don't pass, then even if you pass the question part, it's still a fail, because EKG part is mandatory, that everybody passes EKG part. It is mandatory. So Atal bhai, absolutely brilliant that you did the RV dilatation, and the board actually said what is the most likely diagnosis. So they usually entertain 2, but the answer of course is 1, which is, you got it, that it is what we call this in general cardiology, that this is like bachika bath for EP guys, right? You make it easy that this is arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, because there is the clue, and we should be able to figure that out. Another important thing, that this is like the left bundle morphology type VT, and it is coming from the right side, and this patient had the MRI, and that confirmed that this is arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. And so these are some sample questions, and I'll time to time I'll show you, because my feeling is that it is important that we also want to know what a board exam like, that gives you a little flavor.
Excellent.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much, Chaudhary, for your excellent presentation and a nice demonstration of the board questions. Really, our participants will enjoy, I think.
Ask practical, there are some practical issues and practical situations.
Yeah.
And very difficult situation that you have to face. And I think today's session was really interactive, but mostly among the panelists.
And I thank you always that you give me the chance to come to this forum. But I tell you how much I'm benefiting, because Rafiq Bhai says I'm going for fishing, and now everything on me. So and I then started looking for, and then I'm a master delegator, and I thank to my fellows. I gave this responsibility to 2 of my fellows, and it is also benefiting them, because they are now making the slides, and they also are supposed to present. Every fellow has to present twice a month, so they keep this patient. So overall, it's a global win-win situation.
True, really, really.
Very true. We
So
really
thank
enjoyed
you.
it. We really enjoyed the sessions.
All right, thank you. All right, see you next week.
ঠিক আছে,
Inshallah.
চৌধুরী আব্দুল ওয়াদুদ চৌধুরী।
Thank you.
I think, as I have already said, today's session was very much a practical session of what is there and what problems we face, how to make the decision. And also for the future generations, if they want to go to USA and appear in the board exam, it will be very much helpful for them. And here in Bangladesh, we do have the problems of knowing things but cannot doing the things. Still, if we know how to do what to do, we still may help the patient in some way. Actually, just now, one patient is admitted under myself. He's a very poor patient, and I have to admit with the that I'll be having all the expenses. The patient is a 15-year-old boy, and he has very poor every function. And he's very tachycardia, never complete tachycardia. And looking at it, I was suspecting it is atrial flutter and it's a tachycardiomyopathy. So I'm admitting him and going to do the conversion after if the echo shows is quite all right. He's almost near shock. So taking consent from the patient's family, then we'll be doing it. I'll let you know what happens. And all these things, the courage in doing things, how to do, what to do, I get from this forum. And I'm really grateful to Rafiq sir, to Hafiz Bhai, to Atar Bhai, and everyone else who are present here, because all of them have contributed to my development. And I do think all of us are actually developing ourselves, becoming more bold and more assertive and more accurate in interpreting what is there. So let us congratulate ourselves all together.
And I
Thank you,
I
everybody.
always tell Rafiq Bhai this, that we are trying to make things like work and share our experience. We are not going for a popular campaign. We don't really care. I don't really care about how many people attend, because if at least one person one day can lead the sector of cardiology in Bangladesh, and that person is from this forum, I will be really proud.
Thank you, Chaudhary,
Thank
and
you, Amit.
congratulations. Really, we are enjoying our participants are really being benefited. No doubt, actually. We are actually enjoying your sessions and presentation. Wonderful presentation from your side, Chaudhary. Congratulations.
Sure. And I'm learning a lot too from the other side. And our fellows are learning because they're under pressure. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Amit.
See you. Okay.
Goodbye, everybody.
ठीक है, Chaudhary. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum, sir. Good night.
Ripu, Kamrul, thank you, bhai.
Thank you, sir.